Hi, I'm Mark Richardson, host of Remodeling Mastery, and certainly a trusted advisor to many organizations and companies. These are really unprecedented times, and I thought it might be appropriate for me to create this short video to really help, I think, some of those out there that are, quite frankly, spinning and confused about how to approach things. I was talking to someone yesterday who talked about this as kind of a free fall kind of environment that we're in out there. And as I think about that image of jumping out of a plane and being in a free fall, you can have a controlled free fall or it can control you, and obviously that creates a not very good outcome. As we think about, I think, some of the parts and pieces that are out there, these times that we're in right now, it's not only really challenging, but the speed at which it's changing, I think, really forces us to process things a little bit differently. Some of the advice that I was giving companies a week or week and a half ago, literally 2 days later has changed. Today it's different than yesterday, certainly different than this weekend. So I think it's important, first and foremost, for you to think things through, but not necessarily feel like you need to act on things immediately. There are some actions that you need to take. However, the most important thing, I think, is to get your head around things and not necessarily assume that the conditions that you're experiencing today are going to be the same a week from now. What I really encourage is that you really focus in your business on really three parts. One is your team, the second is your clients and your prospects, and the third is the business, the fiscal side of the business itself. So when it comes to your team, I think first and foremost, you need to have empathy. You need to realize that everybody is processing what's going on out there in different kind of ways, and it's important as a leader to have the right kind of empathy. The second is you need to proactively communicate. I think everybody is certainly doing that with the different communications, but you need to not just assume that how you're thinking, what they're seeing is necessarily the same. So I think you need to balance, the high-tech type of communications with a high-touch kind of communications out there. And lastly, I think with your team, you need to have some flexibility. You need to have some flexibility certainly more than ever, and it's dictated certainly by the government, but also more flexibility in terms of how you're approaching these things. This is a team sport that you're in, and I think the more that you can depend, have alignment with your team, but also really depend on them to have the right accountabilities moving forward. The second is your clients and prospects. What's interesting with your clients and prospects is they're not all looking at the situation the same way. Some are looking forward to have you come into their home, and again, in an extremely safe way, but others, they see you coming and you're almost like a germ coming into the home. So you have to think about the clients really differently. You've got to go back for the last 6-12 months and proactively be communicating with those clients, but you also have to think about those clients that are under construction. How are you going to approach that? Because at the end of the day, you're going to need business, you're going to need to take care of them, I think, doing it. You also need to start to leverage some of the technologies. Many of your clients have time on their hands. They're literally hunkered down. So if you can find ways to leverage technologies to interact and work with your clients through video conferencing, I think that's going to be really appropriate. And also, just keep in mind, at the end of the day, when we're through this in months ahead, it's going to be those client experiences and those memories that ultimately catapult you out of what we're experiencing. Now, the third and quite frankly, the most difficult challenge I think you have is the business itself. It's the physical side of the business. First and foremost, I think as we are getting through this next period of time, you almost have to think of it like building a bridge. How long will this take? And if it takes 3 months, if it takes 4 months to fully get out of it, that's a 3 to 4 month bridge that you have to build, that you have to literally have the necessary cash, the necessary sales, the necessary chess moves for at least for the next 3 or 4 months. And I think cash is king. So it's important, I think, you approach that in the right sort of way. The second is you need to plan. Now, several of the thought leaders that I've talked to, they're creating multiple plans, not just one plan, because this is so fluid and changing so quickly. You need to have different scenarios, different plans to be able to respond. Now, I encourage at least putting the time and energy today into the planning, and maybe enacting on some of those plans a week from now or 2 weeks from, and not necessarily everything has to be put into place right away, because we really don't know exactly what's going to happen out there. The third, which is a little bit more of a positive note on things, and that is, if in fact you have the latitude in your business that you've got enough cash, you can push the pause button, you can have your people safe, this is a great time to improve. Improve on the technologies, improve on the processes, try to make less mistakes, double check things in such a way that you can really start to improve upon the business, not necessarily just focus on the damage control. You've got to be able to look at it, I think, in a different way. So in closing, I really encourage you, don't stop the presses all the way along. You've got to work on the really smart things. As leaders, you have to lead, not just react. And I think at the end of the day, the stronger businesses are going to move from where they are right now, and actually 6 months to a year from now, be even greater than they are right now. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this short video, but also give you certainly my best wishes for these times that we're in today. Take care.